Well, we should be live, Jane. Let's see, shall we? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, we had a long weekend.
We did.
Again.
We did.
Got another one coming too. I do love all this. Don't think Natasha loves it quite as much. I think she likes to be here and saying hello to everybody. Did you see yesterday's show? That's what we want to know.
There were lots of bargains.
There were lots. And that meant I was actually working a lot of the weekend. Crazily loading. If you missed yesterday's show, it was our biggest ever sample sale. So all the beautiful things that Jane and Natasha makes, we just kind of
And you've
built.
made.
Oh yeah, I've made
There was things
some.
in there that you'd made
There
too.
was. And some that John had made.
Yeah.
And a beautiful bed runner that Amanda had made. That I was like,
Yeah.
but someone else got that. A quilt that you wanted, someone else got that. But there was some absolutely beautiful makes. And they're there. We have a few left because there was just such a huge volume. So if you missed yesterday's show and you fancy some ready-made items, they're made with love.
Yes.
Don't claim them as perfect.
Not perfect. Some of them might need finishing off.
Yeah, some might need a little bit of stitching. Some might just be a quilt top. In fact, there's a quilt top on there that I cannot believe is still there, Jane. And I'm so close to taking it off and putting it in my car because I would have that in the long armours and I'd be binding it and going, look at this beautiful thing I made. We don't mind.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
mind. If you buy
Collaboration
a quilt top, we
with
don't
us.
mind at all.
Yeah.
Oh, we have viewers. That means we can be seen and heard. This is good. Jimmy says, good morning, everyone. Your mum's here.
Morning,
Morning,
Mum.
Kate.
Hi, Jimmy.
Yeah, and Claire says, good morning, ladies and all. Hope everyone had a lovely weekend. I did, actually.
I had a very relaxing weekend. I didn't do
you?
very much at all.
Well, that pair in there, that there is Wiz and Inga, they both said they had a crazy busy coronation weekend.
Yeah.
I decorated my house and the caravan. I had my celebration wall hanging out of the top window, my husband's office window, so that the whole village could see it.
Yeah.
But only on Sunday and Monday, because it chucked it down on Saturday, didn't it?
Yeah. It rained a lot yesterday at our house
Oh,
too.
did it? Yeah, to be fair, we got a reasonable amount of rain. It did get wet yesterday, but it'll dry. It's fine. So I had that all decorated. I'd made the Lewis and Irene bunting, you know, the one with Charles and Camilla in the coach.
Yeah.
And so I put that around the front of the caravan, and then last year's sort of red, white, and blue bunting went around the rest and all across the front of the house. So when I went into the village on Sunday for the party, they had a street party.
Lovely.
There was a lot of people saying, "Wow, your house so decorated, Gemma."
It's nice.
All the smug. But yeah, so we did that. We went into the village and had a bit of a picnic and took some drinks. I'm that one that turns up with a jug and, you know, pins and all the fruit in a box.
Yeah.
I make an entire jug up in the middle of the village.
Lovely.
But yes. What about you?
There was a couple of street parties, but nothing round by us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there wasn't much going on, surprisingly.
Oh.
Church
Yeah, nice
had got a bit of a flower festival, which the church looked beautiful. So yeah, yeah. So quiet weekend.
Chilled one.
Yeah.
There was no scones or clotted cream to be found in our village or the surrounding towns. We went on the hunt. So
Everybody
I
had bought them.
these things ahead, all organised, good dates, all of that. And then the husband during the week kept going, "Can we eat them? Can we eat them? Can we eat them? Can we eat them?" Guy, yeah, but can we? Can we eat them? We can get some more for the weekend. Of course he ate them, didn't he?
Yeah, and then you couldn't get any more.
No.
Did you bake some?
Well, I can bake scones, but they're not right without the clotted cream. It's a completely pointless activity. So yes, that was my weekend, everybody. And Jane had a quiet one, and that pair in there had a crazy one. What was yours like? Did you have a good weekend? Here we go. We've got Jane Vivash with us and Julie Jones. Jimmy's saying hello to everybody, which I do love. I love that you're so polite.
Yeah.
That's so nice. And Sue Langford is waiting for the promised thunderstorm in Cornwall.
Ooh, we had one here on Friday.
Yeah, I think we had Friday thunderstorm. Yeah, you're right. What are we making today, please, says Julie. Julie, it's almost like we're supposed to be doing something rather than just having a gossip. Well, this beautiful project behind us is the calendar quilt, and it's something that we launched towards the end of last year, November time, wasn't it, Jane? And it's Jane's perpetual calendar. Do you want to explain it a little bit?
Yeah, we came up with this block of the month, doing a little bit more applique rather than patchwork. There is patchwork in it, but more applique based to depict each month of the year. And we decided that we would do it 2 months in advance to give you time to get the kit, make your block, and then you've got it. If you want to do it as a perpetual calendar, you've got that option, or you can make it into the quilt like we've done here as a wall hanging or on a bed, which looks lovely. So we've quilted and bound each block individually, so you can have it like a perpetual calendar, so you can change it each month. So you've got like a little individual quilt that you can put on a hanging or pin on your wall,
which is so much fun.
Yeah.
You don't have these stands, but you've used dowels, or you've been able to,
Yes, you can put. I've included in the instructions how to make the little sleeve that goes across the back. So you could always put a dowel, like Gemma says, through the back of there, piece of cord either side of it, make it into a little hanging that you could hang up.
Yeah.
So that's a nice way of displaying it.
A little while since you've talked through each block, actually, because we did the January block, the Frosty Flakes, in November, didn't we?
Yes.
And we worked 2 months ahead, so you'll notice if you go to today's products on our website, natashamakes.com, that our today's make is July. And it's not July. It's May.
It's May.
It's only just May. And that's because we get the kit out to you and the instructions. You can get making and hopefully have it ready for display in July.
Yes, that's the plan. I mean, you don't have to. You can just store it away until you want to make it all in one go to make the quilt.
It's true.
So I'll go through each block so that you can see what we've done already and what we're going to be doing. So this is July's, which is always think of summer fairs and things like that in July. So this is sort of like
8 o'clock, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit sort of like that. So
lovely. I adore this book with the tiny little detail on it, and it's not complicated. That's the beauty.
No, it's simple. Yeah. It's tiny pieces. It's bonded applique with free motion embroidery on, which I know some people feel a little bit scared about. We'll talk through it, and also you don't have to do it with the free motion embroidery. You could do it with blanket stitch. You could hand embroider bits on it. It's entirely up to you. The options are there.
Yeah. Should we go overhead, Jane?
Let's
can show
do
everyone
that.
block by block what we have.
So we've got Frosty Flakes, which was the January block, and we've got some lovely sparkle blender there, and it's done with hexiforms to create the snowflake shape, which is then applied onto the background, and then we included in the kit some of the sparkly thread and some of the gems that you can add on should you wish to give it a sort of frosty effect on there. Then we've got February's block, which was the woven heart, and that was a little bit of ribbon weaving. We made bias, well not bias, but we did it with the batik, folded in so that it looked like bias looks, and then showed you how to weave that, and then that's reverse applique of the heart shape over the top.
That was a fabulous technique, and actually, Jane, we ordered woolen mats, didn't we, to be able to pin onto when you were weaving, and unfortunately they didn't arrive in time for that show, so I'm making sure that they are tagged today into that collection, in today's collection. I'll put it right next to that block, because some of you might have bought it and perhaps put it off because you've got nothing to pin down onto, and the wool mat would absolutely be your friend. That should have been here in time, but it wasn't. It's a classic situation. It's the grey felt pressing mat. They're about 10 inches square. You'll know them when
perfect
you see them.
for doing the weaving on.
Yes.
And we may revisit this technique later on, just in a project on its own, just to show you different things you can do with it. Then we've got March Winds. It's a bit of a patchwork there made into the kite, applique with free motion embroidery on the cloud. Bit of quilting to accentuate the wind blowing and the kite movement. And then we have April showers. Again, there's a bit of padded applique there, so that's another slightly different technique. Cutting the strips on the bias to get that lovely gentle curve to make the rainbow, and again a bit of bonded applique.
What I love about this, Jane, is that every single month you've done this, and I've looked at them and gone, oh heck, and they've all been really straightforward to do.
they're not overcomplicated. I've tried to make it as simple as possible. And then we've got March winds, April showers bring forth May flowers, you see. So we've got May flowers. That's a classic Baltimore style block with done again a type of applique where it looks like it's needle turn. This is for the machine. And then there's a bit of hand quilting in the middle, but you don't have to do it hand, you can do it on the machine. So yeah, that's May flowers. Then we had June's block, which was summer days or something like that, I can't remember.
Butterfly,
yeah.
We put both on there because I thought if people search butterfly.
Yes. So yeah, again, bonded applique, free motion embroidery, which I showed you how to make this. It looks like buddleia, very rudimental flower shapes, but when they're scattered all over, it gives the effect of texture that looks like lots of little flowers. Then we've got the July one, which is the Summer Fate one.
Better change the camera angle, hadn't I?
Which is behind us.
It's behind you. It's behind me. Spot the difference in the quilt to this one.
It's a very
Jane
subtle
just
Jean.
how much that annoys her.
It's terrible.
It's so silly though.
I know. I
It
just
really
missed
doesn't
the
matter.
red bunting flag
I'm
off
almost
it.
tempted to stick it on. I am.
It would be out of balance then,
Yeah,
though.
I know.
Really annoys me. Never mind. And then we go to August.
Just the red flag. It's all.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
No, it really doesn't.
Then we've got August, which summer holidays, time on the beach, making sandcastles. And again, bonded applique, free motion embroidery, a little bit of quilting on this bit that looks like the sea. Then we go to September. Think of autumn leaves. This is patchwork with a bit of free motion quilting on it to make the veins.
I'm really looking forward to that one, Jane, because that is a block that I see in quilts, like a maple leaf type
Yes.
block, isn't it? And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how we do that one.
Yeah, it's
And then
good
this
fun.
one's one of my favourites.
I love this one.
Because it's super cute.
This is October, so it's harvest, pumpkins, Halloween, harvest moon. I love this little crow. So
Have you ever made it overly Halloweeny?
no,
It's
I've tried to
more
keep it more sort of like
harvest.
harvesty because that's how I feel October is
Yeah.
depicted. And then we've got November, which is fireworks. For me, it's bonfire night fireworks. So that is a bit of foundation patchwork, but it's not a complicated foundation piece part. So I think you'll enjoy making that. And we've used our sparkle blenders, which just give that little bit of sparkle like fireworks, I think.
Actually, should we go into close-up and just see if we can see the sparkle? Because
Yes.
the sparkle blender is a little bit of an unsung hero, and I've put
Can
these
you
on
see?
today.
It twinkles.
I have put these on today by the half metre for anyone who's interested in having some sparkle blender in their life.
Now this is not the same as the glitter cotton. This is sparkle blender. I know there was a little bit of a thing about the
With the
glitter cotton. It got an adhesive smell which wasn't very pleasant, but this one hasn't got a smell. It's just cotton. It's got like a variegated sort of like a blender, almost batik-y type background, and then the glitter is on the top, and it's quite well attached to the fabric. It doesn't come off. I mean, you do get a little bit, but it doesn't shed loads. So it's a lovely one to use with the sparkle on it.
Perfect. Great stuff. And then December.
Yeah, and I say this every time.
Every month you say, I'll get this block made. I will. We believe her.
December's is another Baltimore style block with the Christmas roses and the holly. Again, we've used a bit of padded applique. We've sort of combined all of the techniques that we've learnt throughout the other blocks, apart from the patchwork obviously, into making the Christmas wreath.
She's a beauty.
She's
And I'll be
gorgeous.
making one of those just to display.
I was going to say,
Full stop.
they all make...
Be great on the front door. If you
yeah.
weren't going to put a proper wreath up. My
Yes.
husband's really funny about proper wreaths. He thinks they'll scratch the door. But that would be really lovely on your front door.
all of these would make individual cushions,
Yeah.
bag fronts, whatever you wanted to use them for. You might want to, like the butterfly, might want to take that block and make lots of different coloured butterflies to make a quilt with. All of them can be interpreted individually,
Yes.
or made into the whole quilt, or made into your like perpetual calendar.
Yeah. And Jane, that's a really good point, because next month's block is the sandcastle, so that's the August block.
Yes.
And I said to you, didn't I, that I just thought that that was a lovely hero piece to go in the middle of either a beach bag, or to be able to make into a mat that you could then put some blocks around the outside of a coordinating fabric.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, the pool party Macawa, which you saw over the bank holiday over Easter, wasn't it?
Yes.
Those fabrics have been so popular. We had hordes.
We
of
did.
different
We got
bolts.
lots.
This is all we have left. That is it.
And there isn't much
So,
of it.
No, there really isn't much of it. So by the time we get to next month's show, the chances are that would have been chopped into pieces and gone and out the door and,
Yes.
used in other guises potentially. But it will be very unlikely you'll get that cut to order. So if you are planning ahead and thinking that you may well make the sandcastle and a bit of pool party might be the thing, or you just wanted some of that for your stash and you've been putting it off, I'd strike now and get that while you still can.
Yeah,
so
don't
those
miss
are loaded
out.
today.
The sandcastle one would look lovely, very simply in the middle with just borders of that lovely pool party fabric around it.
Yeah.
It would really set it off really
Because
nicely.
you've got your ice creams and your sunglasses and your bikinis and all of that, all your holiday items on there already. So it just be such an easy make, wouldn't
it would. It would
Just
make
keep
a lovely
ordering
beach blanket, wouldn't it?
Ordering in the prints and then maybe some plains.
Yeah.
If you need any advice on that, perhaps you've seen a pool party that you like and you're planning on making that block and you're thinking, well, what plains could I do with? Just email. Jane's always happy to receive
I'll always
your
help you with whatever plains or anything that
very
you
happy
need.
being a
Yes.
personal shopper, aren't you?
You do. Very nice.
Perfect. That's what we want. We have lots of people watching,
Lovely.
that's
good. That's nice.
Yeah.
Because sometimes after a bank holiday, you forget what the day is, don't you? Keep thinking it's
do.
Monday today.
You do. Denise says good morning, as does Evelyn, and Auntie Liz is late. She says, oops, good morning, watching horses today.
Oh.
So horses or puppies with you, Auntie Lizzie. That's
Yes.
okay, we'll forgive you. Claire and Angelina's found us. She says Facebook was playing up. It obviously didn't tell her.
Oh, naughty.
That's
It is
okay.
naughty sometimes.
Auntie Lizzie loves the puffy cheeks on your clouds. That was March Winds,
Yes.
wasn't it? Yeah. And again, it was such a simple technique to get that.
Yes.
But lovely. And these shows are there to watch back. So maybe you are new to the calendar quilts. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I've missed it all. We have some of the months that we can generate a kit for. If there's any that are looking sold out, just message us and we'll see whether we can put something similar together for you.
Yeah.
But the actual demos are there forever. You can watch those back on our website or on YouTube. You'll find them there.
Lovely.
Which is grand.
It is.
Over the course of the weekend, there were some wonderful things going on. There were
Oh,
some
yes, some
Friday
nice deals.
Yeah, for sure. I've just noticed our lamps fallen over and the craziness that was getting ready for the show,
Yeah.
Jane. Oop. Can't have
Bit
the
of
ODL
O'Deal
lamp. It's the
falling over.
It's the Tipsy Tortoise gin bottle as well,
Yes.
which seems rather appropriate.
With the lovely ladies on them. Yeah.
Oh dear. But yes, one of the deals on Friday was that we added to our half bolt sale. So we bring every now and again a few bolts of Lisa Chandler forward and give you the opportunity to buy a half bolt at an absolutely cracking price. Now I know that we put those on and we take them down. So the one that's currently on promotion is this here, which is the Melba stripe, border stripe.
Which is rather
stunning.
fabulous.
I have re-enlivened some of the others for you as well, just for today, so that if you are thinking, hang on, what's this half bolt thing I've been missing? I'll go overhead, Jane, so we can
Yeah.
see it.
It's beautiful.
It is a stunning fabric. Jane's had loads of fun with this, and Natasha. We've made pouches, we've made bags, we've made cushions, we've made quilts, we've done all sorts with it. But you kind of want a nice big piece.
Yes.
So to get a half bolt, Jane, what are we looking at there?
4.5 metres, is that?
Crikey bobs.
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it?
It is good. The thing with this print is it lends itself beautifully for borders for the quilts because you've got like these three different widths of borders are repeated on the other side of the fabric, so you've got that repeat again. You could use it on the edge of a tablecloth.
You could. That'd be stunning.
You could fussy cut areas of it, which is what I did with this cushion. I used that part there for the centre of my cushion and then used the top border here for the border around the cushion. So it's got lots of potential. There's lots of different things. And Natasha's done little bag trio, hasn't she? Where she makes different size pouches from each
Yes,
strip, which is rather stunning.
it is.
Yeah, so it's got lots of ideas that
It's
you
a
can do with it. It's a beautiful fabric. And of
it's
course,
timeless. We know lots of people who've had this in their bedroom.
yeah,
And
the
why
beauty
wouldn't
of Lisa's fabric is it's a very, very good quality base cloth. The print is stunning. There's an intensity to the print, depth of colour and everything. And then you've got the metallic element on the top, and it's just not any sort of metallic element. There's a glimmer to it. It's got almost, I don't want to say glittery because that doesn't do it justice, but it's got a depth to the metallic as well. So it's a really beautiful fabric.
thoughtfully designed as well, isn't
Yeah.
it? You have got really delicate shading in there as well. I mean, this one is is ivory, so it's not as easy to spot the shading. But on some of the other colours,
even the back cloth,
yeah,
the cream on here isn't just a flat cream. There's a depth of shading to the cream as well, which is rather lovely.
See the shading to the cream. It's just
you can see it just a little bit around that braid there. There's a slightly darker shading around there and around the edge of this orator flower here. A little bit around that thistle type flower at the top.
They're just gorgeous.
It's just beautiful. And of course, with Lisa's fabric, she does other colours within her collection that all blend beautifully with these fabrics. So you've got the Melba fan and the small florals. There's a tile print there as well, which goes with it. So you've got lots of options for making projects with it.
Yeah, you really have. So I will tag in some of these other fabrics so that you can see those easily if you do want to buy some of those by the half metre. But today, what's available by the half bolt is that top border, and it won't be for very long. And I've re-enlivened a few of the other half bolt sales that we've had as well.
Lovely.
Jane, we've got some comments here to say that the blocks for the calendar quilt look beautiful, but they look hard.
They're not, because I don't do difficult.
We don't, because
I haven't got time.
No. Jane definitely doesn't have time just to crack out a new project for us every week. But we know that you don't love difficult all of the time. Sometimes it's nice to have a more complex,
there's elements in
project.
this one. This is this has got more elements to it, but it's very straightforward. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of hand embroidery on there, which I'll go through. Nice. I think the beauty of this is that you don't have to do it all free machine embroidery. You can use other stitches, and you could do a lot more hand embroidery on it should you wish to, because there are some of us that like to sit with a hand embroidered project, something that we can do hand stitching on, take into the garden, take with us onto the beach, whatever you want to do. A little bit of slow stitching, which is always lovely to have. Nobody's going to make sure that you've done it by July. No. Nobody's going to be on to you.
Nobody's going to be checking your block to make sure it's identical to ours as well. If you look at it and you think, actually, I don't want to do this bit, but I'll do something like that instead, absolutely fine. In fact, we'd be delighted to see it, wouldn't we?
Well, this is it. There's always options to make it your own. I never say it must be followed exactly to how I've done it.
Should be there, cracking the whip.
I never mind. Mine are never too identical every time I do them anyway. So
we've had several viewers say, "I'm sure they can see us. I'm sure they can." Not yet. Technology's not there yet, so she doesn't know. But similarly, if there is something you're looking at and you've got a block on it and you're just thinking you could do with a word with Jane, pop her an email. She'll email you back. She's very nice like that.
I do my best. Mm-hmm. Do my best to help.
Absolutely. Sue Langford says, I better start working. All the glittery fabric is opening my purse. Jimmy's saying the fireworks one can get the creative juices going.
Yes.
Oh, and Sue's saying, I can honestly say the plains that you matched for my velvet border was top notch. We aim to please. And we've got it all in front of us, so it really is, okay.
Yeah, we've got a lovely array of plains to choose from and other fabrics, so we'll do our best to match it. And we would never, we're always like, we would never do anything that we didn't enjoy ourselves. No. So if we don't like it, we won't give it you. I think there's Natasha's philosophy, isn't it?
She won't buy anything that she wouldn't be all right with being left with.
Yeah.
She said when she first started, it was a case of, what if no one buys anything? Better buy things I just like in my own personal stash.
That's right, yeah.
Our own personal stash has got a bit large now.
Yes.
Through the warehouse.
It has.
But yeah, we do buy things that she loves and that she would be pleased to have herself.
Yes.
So, yes. We do have a link for today's goodies. They are available on the Natasha Makes website. It's natashamakes.com, and then you can either go to the Textile Tuesday page or you can go to the Watch Live page and you'll find them there as well.
Lovely.
Over on YouTube, we have Jay Wolf, who says, morning ladies, caught you live, hurrah. Claire Angelina was watching there. She's over on Facebook now. She gets all over the place, I tell you. And Leslie Reynolds says, good morning. Looking forward to this demo today. I've really enjoyed my journey into free motion quilting and embroidery. Without you guys, I would never have started it.
And that's it. It's all about just giving it a go. And you're never going to get it perfect first time. It takes practice, everything. Think about when you were a child and what your handwriting was like. It's nowhere near as lovely as it is now. Yep. And that's because you practiced it. And it's like anything that we do, you need to practice.
And it's doing a little bit, isn't it? As often as you can.
Yeah.
And if you managed, 10 or 15 minutes a day even, you'll improve by 1% each time.
Yeah.
And you don't see the difference until you keep your old work and you compare it with your new work.
This is exactly
That's the
it.
thing, isn't
Yeah.
it? I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are tempted when they first start out to sort of throw the things that they've made, oh, that's not good enough. Keep things and compare.
It's always worth having it to look back on. It's interesting to see how far you've come without realising how far you've come.
I'm just starting to paint, Jane. This is
Oh,
my thing.
lovely.
I'm gonna switch my brain off and paint. And the one thing I keep seeing everyone say is, please keep your old paintings, even if you think, oh no, that doesn't look right at all, because you'll repaint the same thing, and to put them side by side is just hugely beneficial for your growth.
Yes.
So again, with the sewing, just do a bit.
You don't have to show
Enjoy
anybody
it.
else.
No.
You can keep it in the back of the cupboard,
Yeah.
but just periodically have a look at it and think, oh, look how better I am now.
And bear in mind as well, when you're making something for a loved one, all they're seeing is love in every stitch. And also, you know, they don't know what the end result was necessarily supposed to look like.
Yes.
So if you're producing something, they probably think you're super clever. And you
Absolutely.
produce something amazing. Even if you're there going, my points don't quite match here, and that's got a little pleat in it there. or there's
Stitching's a
thread
little bit
there.
wobbly.
Yeah.
They won't know.
No.
They won't know
No.
because they don't know what it's supposed to be like. And if they're not quilters themselves, they'll just think you're amazing. So, yeah.
I say this, we're the worst for it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jane, don't look at this. I got this bit wrong. And she'll whip her block out and go, look, it's more right than mine is. And I'm like, no, it's not. But we do this. This is what we do.
I always
It's
encourage
not
my
perfect.
students when I'm doing classes, I always say, well, go and have a look at mine really closely. Because they're like, oh, I can't get this straight. Just go and look at mine really closely.
And you thought mine was fabulous, didn't you?
So it's like, you know, you look at something and because you're right on top of it while you're stitching, you're going to see every little stitch that's not quite straight, every little bit that's not right, quite, you know, together. But when you're standing sort of 3 feet away from it, which is what you are when it's on a bed or the back of the sofa, you can't see those mistakes.
You're not looking at the millimetre or two out, are you? You're really not. Whereas to us, it's the end of the world. And I just think it's all about being kind to yourself and enjoying the process.
Yes, that's what it's about. And I think what I tried to aim for with this particular quilt was to develop your skills, to move you forward a little bit from where you've, you know, been safe. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you feel happy and it makes you happy just to sew squares together and make a beautiful quilt, that's fine. But if you want to push yourself a little bit further, this is a lovely project because it's small, manageable pieces that you can have a go at. And you don't have to do all the free motion quilting on it if it really doesn't suit you.
No.
You can do it with blanket stitch, zigzag, all sorts of different stitches. You can do it by hand if that makes you happy. It's,
absolutely,
you know, we don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. That's the last thing we're aiming for, but we are trying to develop your skills.
You're giving people a safe space to have a go.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And I think when I first started working at Natasha Makes, I'd been sewing for years. And I'd been quilting for a few years, about a couple of years. But I'd only, Jane knows this, sewn squares together. Preferably charm packs, because I was scared of cutting fabric more than I was scared of sewing fabric. And then you put me onto your Block of the Month project just to test it, because we thought, if I can make it, who's only sewing squares together, thank you very much, when it came to quilting. I mean, I've made bags and other stuff, but yeah, no, that was on a quilting front, squares, pre-cut, that's it. You thought, if I can do it and cut it and make all these blocks, and some of them were, you know, there was curves in them and all sorts, that it would find out any areas of the patterns where I went, Jane, what does this mean?
Yes.
You'd be able to go, aha, I need to explain that a bit more. Because it's very easy, isn't it?
It is. When you've been doing it for a long time, you forget some of the little minute details that a beginner would not necessarily understand. So it's always helpful to have somebody else read your pattern and say, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just have to reword it to make it more understandable.
Yeah. But also then I have learned and developed and improved so much off the back of it. So there were things that I had and I'd go, oh no, I don't want to do this one because I've built X, Y and Z up in my head to be something I can't do. So curved seams, foundation paper piecing. Oh no, I can't do that. And yet when the Coronation Celebration came in front of me, that was my first foray into some FPP.
Yeah.
And that block came together lovely.
Yes.
Other parts that were just basic piecing, I was bit more complacent with, and I was like, oh no, that's slightly off, whereas my actual FPP came out spot on because I'd concentrated and I had to do it. So sometimes it does give you that little push. And I mean, Sue Langford said here as well about free motion. Again, you can get yourself concerned about free motion and the fact that that sounds scary and it sounds difficult. She said, I was disappointed when I found out how hard good stitch in the ditch is. Free motion is so much easier and hides my shame. I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
First time I did some free motion, I appliqued a heart on, I think it was, and I just went round once and went, well, that looks a mess. So I did it twice more and went, oh, now it looks shabby chic fabulous.
Yes.
I love it now.
Yeah.
And actually, the more wobbly it is, the better it looks.
It gives a nice dimension to it.
Yes.
It's not too factory manufactured look, is it? It gives it a homemade feel.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
it's
a
very on
nice,
trend.
yeah, nice feel to it, I think.
Very on trend. So that is what we're going to look at today. We have got a little pile here, you'll notice. These are bolt ends that will be loaded during the course of today. So I'll very quickly wave those under the camera. Or Jane can, because, you know, she likes stroking the fabric.
Yes.
We've got some
Particularly
Philip
this
Jacobs.
one. I love this
Yes.
nautical shell. I love the colours of it.
This is stunning, isn't it? Look at it.
And I love the pattern. I'll turn it round that way and you can see how it works. But that, and
Beautiful.
I just feel that this is the sort of fabric that if you cut it into squares or triangles, you're going to get such an effect
Yeah.
with the same fabric.
Every piece will be different.
It will. It'll be
Gorgeous.
gorgeous. And a beautiful backing for a quilt.
Yep.
Absolutely
Or a brilliant
stunning.
beach bag.
Yeah.
And Natasha's beach bag is a super easy make. For anyone who's not made a beach bag, that is one to have a look at.
So that's the Philip Jacobs Nautilus cells. That's Philip Jacobs' own snow leopard,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes, it is.
His own label.
Yep.
So that's really pretty. And
Amazing.
3 metre piece of that,
Yeah.
so that's a really good quilt backing. This
I
is
love
good
this one.
fun. I love
I don't
this.
even know what this for, Jane.
I wanted to make a shirt from
If I was a
this,
slip of a girl,
not for myself,
I'd
but
want
for a
I'd want
little
frock.
little person.
Yeah, definitely needs to be a shirt for a little person.
It's Lewis and is it Lewis and Irene?
No, it's Riley Blake.
Riley Blake,
Yeah, Riptide.
Riptide,
Mhm.
beautiful. Look at that, sharks, all sorts of different sharks and rays on there.
Little tiny goldfish as well.
Yeah,
Which
beautiful.
you kind of miss to start with.
And this lovely
reeds,
green of the
yeah.
seaweed. It's beautiful. Really good fun fabric that is. There's 2 metre piece of that.
It's a great size.
So it would make again, back of a quilt or for a quilt, you could make squares and put stars around it or something similar and then use some of it for a border. There's a bit of Morris here, willow bough. And this is beautiful fabric. This is just gorgeous. Lovely shades of blue with the willow vine going through it in a nice sandy tan colour. And 1.3 metres of that. Again, a
Beautiful.
nice
Classic.
chunk piece of that. Might just make nice cushion
It's a
covers,
lovely
wouldn't
fresh,
it, actually?
Yeah, it's a lovely fresh colourway, that one as well.
There's a bit of Tim Holtz here. Electric
Tim Holtz
Elements,
is not doing fabric anymore.
monochrome, tiny stars.
I'm not sure Natasha knows that Inga's Bolton did this in the next one because it's Tim Holtz and she does love Tim Holtz.
That will make beautiful bag lining,
Stunning.
background fabric,
Yep.
backing of a quilt.
Really nice.
Rather stunning.
In your blocks in a
Because you
contemporary
can
style quilt
you can
as well.
see there's an element of shading to it.
Beautiful.
So it's not just stars on cream. There's like a grey shading to that as well.
It's very contemporary and I think
It
if
is.
you use that as a blender in your blocks on a quilt, that would look beautiful,
It
wouldn't it?
would look stunning. And then that is a 2.4 metre piece. So again, make a good quilt backing.
Fantastic.
And then there's a nice chunk here of the monochrome subway signs. And again, bags.
Oh, it's fabulous, that one. Look at it.
Look at it. It's
I'm
just
saying
lovely. If you
contemporary about
like,
the last one. Crikey.
there's a lot of people that like fabric that has lettering on it,
Yeah.
script fabric. There's a whole movement of people that like having script fabric in their quilts. So this is a really good chunk of fabric to have. All the lettering in there. Again, stunning bag lining, or bag fronts even. You could make tablet stands with that for gentlemen in your life. We shouldn't stereotype fabrics, but
No,
it
but
does have a
they
masculine
do,
feel to it.
well, and they do, or just, yeah, a unisex feel to it, because they do tend to have opinions. you
Yes.
know. Mine wouldn't like something overly floral.
No.
Tut and tut. Some gents do, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But mine wouldn't.
No.
Won't be like that.
Yes, that would go down well. And like if you've got teenagers going off to university,
Yeah.
make them a tablet stand for their
Yeah.
phone or their tablet,
Quilt
for
back, all of
quilt
that.
back, all that sort of thing.
Fantastic.
Beautiful fabrics there.
Good stuff. Jane, you've got some demoing to do. And
I
I'm
have.
really excited because I've got a little thing about gingham.
Oh, have you?
I love a gingham.
I love gingham as well.
I think it's because
Gingham and spots.
I'd like to go back to being about 7 and wearing gingham dresses and doing barn
Hopscotch.
dances and hopscotch and all that. Quite happily wear gingham forevermore.
Yeah, and the gingham we've got in this kit is proper gingham. It's proper 100% cotton woven gingham,
yarn dyed
which is
woven gingham.
quite difficult to get hold of sometimes.
And we do have this by the half metre as well. So I'd love it. A gingham frock with like a sash and a big bow. I mean, I'd also like a tiny waist to go with it.
Yes,
Unfortunately,
and we could be like 7 brides or 7 brothers, couldn't we?
Jane, we would.
We would.
We'd sing constantly. That is just how Jane and I would be.
You have got in your kit way more than you actually need.
Good-o.
You have got, because we're only using little tiny pieces for most of it, you've got 2.5-inch width of fabric strips here of all the little pieces of fabric. So you're going to use like that much off for your applique, which leaves you nearly a full width of fabric strip left over for your stash. You will have a 1/2 metre piece of the blue. We always give you enough in your kit so that you've got enough to make the perpetual calendar as well as the quilt should you wish to.
Yeah.
Or you just put the rest of the fabric in your stash. So you've got 1/2 metre of the blue background, which goes with the green. That's a long 1/8 of that one, so that's 5 inches wide for the green. You'll use that for the bottom of your block and for a little bit of your applique. We'll come to that later. You've then got what you can use for the binding or the frame of the quilt. I think you would have enough to do both with that. I don't want to promise you that, but you might. But it's one of our planes which you can get more of should you need to. Then you've got your piece of gingham. Now, because it's clothing fabric width, it's 60. Is it 60?
Not far off, Jane. No, it's not far off. Let me just pull that one up for you because I know I've got it in
so you've got
in my head.
a
Why do we
massive
have these
piece of this.
interchangeable measurements, I tell you. It's 144 centimetres, which is 56 inches. There we
Yeah.
go. I knew it is.
So dressmaking width, really, isn't it?
Because it's meant to be a frock for you and me,
Yes,
Jane, that's
absolutely. So you've got a 5-inch wide strip of that because that's your tablecloth, but you can see you're going to use, I don't know, about 6 or 7 inches of it. So once you've done your tablecloth, you're still going to have a massive amount left over.
Great.
Even if you did both blocks. So you've got a lovely piece of gingham in there.
Fabulous.
And then, as I say, all of your little pieces, you'll have a 1/2 metre piece of Bondaweb and a 1/2 metre piece of medium weight interfacing, which I always iron to the back, ready for my free motion. It just acts as a stabiliser. You will also have skeins of embroidery floss, red, yellow, white and green.
They're stuck in the post, Jane.
Yes, we're waiting for those to be
It's almost like
delivered.
it's been a bank holiday.
Anybody would think there'd been a bank holiday, yeah.
So
That's
they'll be here imminently.
what you're going to have in your kit. So you've got lovely amounts of fabric in there to make your block with.
Great.
The instructions will come with the templates. I have put them into the reverse of the way they appear on my table, on my quilt. I have done all my little pieces. That's what takes the time really, because they're quite fiddly and intricate. And so get yourself a good pair of snippy scissors. The EZ snips are really nice, the easy snips. They're really good. I love these Frisco ones because they've got the right sharp right to the point.
Oh, they're Soline ones, aren't they?
Soline rather, yeah.
The pink ones.
Yeah.
They're lovely.
They are really nice to have. So
But we do love our easy snips.
preparing your block, you'll cut, it's all the instructions are within, all the cutting instructions are within your pattern. So make your block just so that it's got a strip of the green at the bottom. I've pressed my seam open in this instance just because it gives it a flatter finish, and because you're going to be embroidering around it, you want the least amount of bulk really.
Fabulous.
So Bondaweb is an adhesive sheet. This has come apart. Now if this happens to your Bondaweb, and it does come apart, just get your iron and hover it over the top. Don't press it, obviously, because you'll stick it to your ironing board. But just hover it over the top to just...
Wakey.
Not melt, but warm the adhesive, and it usually sticks itself back together. It's not going to do it today because I want it to, but don't worry about it. I'm just going to do the tablecloth part. So, with your bonder web, with the paper side facing upwards, using an ordinary pencil, you're going to trace around the drawing on your template sheet. You can use a ruler to get a nice straight line if you wish to, but I think sometimes having that sort of slightly wobbly, sketchy feel to it adds to the pictorial element of it. So just drawing around that, and you would trim your bonder web close to your draw line. I'm not going to do it on this piece just because it's come a little bit loose. It's come loose because I've had it for a long time, and it does over time. It's been sat sitting over a long time. It does do that. But as I say, if you hover your iron over the top of it, it usually sticks it back to the paper. But if it does do this and comes away, it's probably a good idea to get a piece of greaseproof paper just to put over the top of it in case any of the adhesive sheet has come slightly loose, and it'll stick to your iron, which you don't really want because it makes it messy.
No.
I'm just going to trim that.
That's okay.
Because otherwise it will stick
We don't
to
want
the
it
bottom of the
stuck on
iron.
the
We don't
iron,
want
do
it messing.
No, we
Natasha's
don't.
on iron up for tomorrow. She'll be very
Imagine.
cross.
Sue Langford is reminiscing. She said, I loved my gingham dresses, white cotton socks and the Clark sandal that everyone had.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll just press that down now. So we're pressing when it's together, it's like a rough side. There's a paper side and the rough side on the bonder web, and that will be, the rough side is the adhesive side. So you put that on against the wrong side of your fabric, and iron that down, as Gemma is beautifully demonstrating.
I think we've got it all, Jane.
Lovely, thank you.
Come back over here.
That's lovely. And so then you can actually cut that out, and you cut along the drawn line. So this will give you your piece that you're then going to apply to your... Now you can do what I haven't done, and you can line your gingham up so that it's nice and square at the top, so that you haven't got it wobbly. I didn't think about that when I was lining it up on the pattern piece, but that doesn't matter for this instance. But if you like to have...
I quite like it wobbly, because you do find, don't you, when a tablecloth goes on, it's all straight, and then the minute you put all the food items on, it
Yeah,
gets
it
shifted
moves,
slightly.
doesn't it?
And if it's, you know, if it's slightly on the wonk, shall we say,
Yeah.
it will look...
But there are some of us that don't like, when we've got a stripe or
grabs the eye.
a check, we don't like it to be wobbly. We like it to follow the pattern, so we can... But you can do that when you're lining your pattern piece up. You can do that on top of the... To get the paper backing off now, we just give it a scratch in the middle, just to get underneath the paper. I don't recommend that you go to the edge and try to flick the paper off, because you're very likely to fray your fabric then.
Yes.
So you can just pull that off. Now it will go very statically and stick to everything as you're working. So be prepared for it to be quite statically. So just on your background, just make sure that it's nice and central to your background here. Just think about the fact that you're going to lose sort of give yourself 1/2 inch all the way around. You're going to lose that space, so don't have it right down here because you'll lose that bit there. So just so it looks like it's sitting just a little bit up into the sky part of the fabric and just about 1 inch or so on the grass part there. So once you're happy with that placement, and I recommend that you do all of this on your ironing board. So take all your pieces, once you've cut them out and you've got them in their paper state like so, take the whole lot to the ironing board and do all of this on your ironing board.
There's nothing worse, is there, Jane?
Because it'll all move as soon as you walk away with it.
Float off across the room.
And then you won't find one. One will have gone somewhere and it's going to be completely... Yes, please. So then once you've pulled the paper off, you can then press that onto your background.
I know it needs a bit longer, but I'm just giving it a little.
And it just, yeah, it just, that will melt the adhesive and attach the adhesive to your background fabric. You don't need to have steam with bonded web, you can just use a nice hot iron. And again, you might be wise to put a piece of greaseproof or your Teflon pressing mat over the top when you press it, just so that you don't have any danger of getting your adhesive. And then it's a case of looking at your block or the picture on your pattern for your placement of the rest of your little pieces. So I've got the block here so we can have a look at that. We've got all the little pieces here, I'm hoping, because I did this in the workroom and then walked it across. And
oh, you see, there might be something floated up across.
We could have anything gone anywhere. So I would start with my tall cake stand and pop that vaguely in the middle of the table. No, we're not telling you to measure it accurately, but that's where I would start. I put my cake stand approximately in the middle with my scones. This is the piece with the scones. All of this looks a little bit flat, and it's the embroidery that adds to the depth of the picture. And it's once you've got those elements in. I don't know if you noticed that, I just tucked my scones, whatever you want to call them, underneath very slightly, just a couple of threads underneath my cake stand. Once you're happy with the placement of that, you can just give that a press. Just hold it for a few minutes just to let not minutes, seconds. Don't hold it for a few minutes, you'll end up with a scorch mark on your... Yeah. Now, you can then work out from the middle. We've got the cookies here. Now, the cookies don't have anything to sit on, they're sitting on the table, and we've just made, when we come to do the line, we've just made a little line either side there to look like a plate. So again, I'm just running the pin underneath in the middle of that just to release it. We can stick the cookies around about there. We can then put the cake on, and again you can build the cake up just like you would when you're making a cake in real life, really. You put your two sponges together with the jam in the middle, and again there's elements in this that you can make your own. So you might think, well, actually I quite like the idea of a chocolate cake. There's enough fabric within your collection to use, you know, the brown that we've got for the cookies.
That'd be amazing.
You could make a chocolate cake. You could make your cookies from the fabric that I've said for the Victoria sponge. It's all open for interpretation and to help you make the picture your own.
Fabulous.
Excuse me. You'll take a lot more time with this. I'm doing it quite quickly, just to give you an idea of how you put it together. We've got the little elements that make the cream, the blobs of cream on the top, and you'll probably find by the time you've cut these out that the paper just falls off the back anyway. So just,
saves you the bother.
if the paper has fallen off the back and you pick it up and you're not sure which side of the adhesive on, the adhesive will be slightly shiny on your fabric. So just have a look. You won't be able to see it on these, but there's a little bit of a sheen to it where which for the side that's got the adhesive on. So you can just line, I've done 3 blobs of cream. You can do more than 3 blobs should you wish to. It's entirely up to you. As we say, the elements are there for you to make. You might decide that you want the cake on the cake stand in the middle. Again,
Right.
that is entirely your decision and you can do it as you wish. So I'm just going to
watching this.
press those elements now so that they don't move. Once I'm happy with where they are, those little blobs of cream are quite fiddly to get in and on, but also it doesn't matter if they're not too straight. Again, you know, blobs of cream look slightly different, don't they, when they're on top of a cake?
I do.
I'll give you that back, Gemma, thank you. Then we've got the bowl with the strawberries. And I said, didn't I would have lost one of the elements. I've lost my strawberries. Now I know that they were there earlier.
Oh.
But
I mean, losing your strawberries is better than losing your marbles, Jane.
well, absolutely. There they are. Look, they've wafted all the way over to that side of the table.
We did say, didn't we, if you don't have them all in one place and you try and move things around, they will waft off.
They will, because they're such small pieces. They will do that.
Well, and things that have got bond web on just seem to like to do that just for fun.
Yes. And again, the bowl is the little floral fabric. You're going to have lots of that left. You could add borders to this block to make it into a bigger quilt hanging should you wish to. And I'm just going to, again, just tuck those strawberries just underneath the bowl, just so that they sit underneath it. And then we've got the jug, which in my head's got cream in it for the strawberries, but it might be lemonade or it might be something even nicer.
Nice.
So we'll just stick that one on. Thank you.
Wonderful. You're welcome.
Just pop that back. Thank
Okay.
you. So when it comes to the bunting, you will need to mark a line to hang your bunting from. Now, you can use your iron away marker, but just remember that you're going to put the bunting on and then you're going to press it so your line will disappear. But it's a guideline, so it doesn't matter too much, but just be aware of that. And I'll show you what I'm talking about in a minute. But about an inch down from the top, and just got about an inch there, and just think about a curved string. It's just an element. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just a guideline at this point, just to hang your bunting from. When you're happy with where your line is, you can then position your bunting flags. I've done a rainbow because, you know, I love a rainbow.
You do love a rainbow.
But, you know, there's nothing to stop you using your white fabric and just red, white and blue. Coronation with in mind sort of thing.
Pop a little red line that way and that way on a white one to make it look like the, you know, England flag. Or you've got some blue, you've got white, you could do Scottish flag.
Yeah.
Have some fun with this, couldn't you?
You could. There's lots of things that you might prefer to do with your bunting. You might have some stripy fabric that you might think make good bunting. You may not want the bunting element. It's completely up to you. As we've said before, it's your block. You can do with it what you want. There are 7 colours in my flag, not on this one because I missed the red off. We won't talk about it anymore. But obviously,
She's not even slightly annoyed with herself about this. Can you tell?
the fourth one is in the middle of the string. So you can put that one in the middle first and then balance the other colours 3 either side.
Our international viewers are catching up with us, Jane. We've got Lynn Marshall saying good evening and Cynthia saying greetings, and she's put My Calendar Girl and some notes after it.
Oh, lovely.
That's a song for the day.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah. There we go. So once you're happy with the placement of those, if you feel that they're nicely central, nicely spaced, you can then press those down. You can do them one at a time if you want to, but you can see now that my line has disappeared. But I've still got my line on the sides here and here, so I've got something as a guide when I come to sew it. And then the last little piece is the blades of grass that go on the bottom on the one corner.
Such a nice touch, that, Jane.
It's just a little element.
Yeah. Again, you could do some more if you want.
Yeah, you could do more, you could do less, you could leave it off completely. It's entirely up to you. It's your block. Stick that in that bottom corner there. Just,
I love it.
Just about there.
Looks great, and the
Around about
batik
there.
looks brilliant. I mean,
Well, the
batik
thing
works
is, with
really
the batiks, you've got those elements, and you can position, again, you can look at the batik and you can position it to give you, I've looked at one of the swirls on the batik and I've positioned it so that it looks like the grass is
you've got the blades
shaded.
of grass in there. Brilliant.
So that's all done. So once you're happy with all the placement and you've got everything ironed on, let's just move these bits, you're going to flip that over and you're going to iron your interfacing on there. Now the interfacing is iron-on interfacing, and again it's got a rough side which is the adhesive and a smooth side which is the right side. So you want to put the adhesive side onto the back of your block, position it so it's fairly central. I've cut mine sort of like a 1/2 inch smaller all the way around, just so that it sits in the middle of there.
Fabulous.
And you're just going to iron that on, keeping it as smooth as you can. I'm not letting it wrinkle like it's just done there. But that's just going to stabilise your fabric and make it easier for the free motion embroidery, really. Just adds that little bit. It doesn't prevent it puckering, but it reduces the amount of puckering that it will happen if you hadn't got it on the reverse. The reverse of your fabric. Give you that back, thank you very much. So now you've got your basic pattern on there, and you're now going to sketch in the elements around. And so we'll start on that. Now I've got black on my machine. You could use a dark brown, you could use a grey. You could change your thread to match the colours of what you're sewing around. It's entirely up to you. I like the black because it gives it that sketchy look. So to start with, we'll do around the tablecloth, and I don't know if you saw the demonstration of the seagull last week, but it's pretty much the same principle as we did for that. So I've got my darning foot on. This machine has got one that's got an open toe. There's also one that's a full circle as well. So whatever your machine has, I like the open toe because you can see where you're going. Hold your top thread and just drop your needle into the fabric, lower your foot and let the thread grab the bobbin thread. It won't grab the bobbin thread if your foot is still in the raised position. Once you've got the bobbin thread, I'm using a different colour. Normally I would have the same colour, but I've got a different bobbin colour thread so that you can see it. Use your unpicker or a pin or something, grab the loop and bring the bobbin thread up to the top. Position your needle back into where it came up lift your foot and take the threads behind. Now I'm just inside about not even 1/8 of an inch, just inside the edge of my applique, and I'm going to go around twice. So I'm going to follow the line. I'm taking it nice and steady. I'm not going too fast. I'm probably going slower than I would do if I was doing free motion quilting, just because it gives me the control. Nice steady stitch. You're in charge of the length of the stitch. So the slower you move your fabric, the smaller your stitch is going to be. So I'm going to go around the tablecloth once, just to get the line of on there. You can use the image on the front of your pattern as a guide to the type of stitching that you're going to do. A sketchy look, because there's some elements that add detail to this. I'll just move these bits of paper out of the way and move my template sheet and bring the actual block down. We can look and see the elements that we're going to add to the table and everything. Just down this side, oops, make sure your foot's dropped, down this side. Now when I get to the grass, I'm going to do the elements around that grass now, just stitching it, going up, just following the shape, just to get that definition, nice and slowly, just following the blades of grass. Bit wobbly there, but we'll go around twice just to give it a bit of definition. You don't have to go around twice. If you're happy the way that the line of stitching's gone the first time, you could leave it at one line of stitching. There's no rule. I just like that sketchy element of two. And don't worry that it's not exactly on the line that you've just done. That sort of gives it that sketchy feel anyway.
If your first row of stitching is wobbly and looks to you a mess, the second time going round sometimes just fixes it completely, doesn't it?
So I've come around a third time along this bottom line, just so that I can get back onto the tablecloth without cutting my thread. And again, that's fine. There's no rule. Now, when I get to this element here, I've got like a little fold in my cloth. So I'm going to come down and then I'm going to go up just a little way, about 2/3 of the way, just to give that accent of a fold on the edge. And then I'm going to carry on. So I'm back to where I started on my tablecloth now. So I'm going to go round for the second time. So following the line and trying to keep on the line, but again, it doesn't matter if it's not exactly on the line and it's a bit wobblier than the first line, that's fine. Now, when I get to the cake, I'm going to go onto the cake now and follow that around that shape, coming around there. Oops, a bit wobbly. Come around up again. Now on the jam, I think I just came around the outside edge of the jam and then came onto the cake again. So following that around again, you can see it's a little bit wobbly. When I go round again, now I'm going to come up into the cream. Now, going around the cream, I just came in a little bit on the one side, went around the edge, and then came a little bit in on the other side, just to give that element of like a whipped look. And I only went around the cream just the one time, just because it's such a tiny piece, and I think if you go around twice, you might lose it completely, the effect of the cream swirl, as it were. Go back along, come around that cake part there, and I'm going to go around the jam edge on that one, and then just around this cake part again. And then we're back onto the tablecloth, and we can follow that around. With the cookies, as I said, I just made a little plate shape. So I went across along the bottom of there, up that side, just to make that little plate shape. And then went around the outside shape of the cookies. And you can mark this on your applique first if you're feeling a little bit unsure. But you can then make, if I'm going to turn this around so I can see it a little easier, sort of round shapes that look like a pile of cookies. They don't have to be exactly round because some move slightly. Some you might just see the one element of them. It's to give it an effect of, it doesn't have to be completely accurate. And then we'll come along the tablecloth again. And we're going to go up onto the cake stand. Around the edge of the cake stand. Following the shape, we'll come across there, and then the second time around, when we come up the one side, we can then go around the scone shapes, and again it's just adding detail in so it looks like a pile of scones on the plate.
Making me hungry, Jane.
Well, yes, I do love it. I had jam and cream scones over the weekend, and it's just, I don't know what it is about scones, but they have to be with jam and cream.
They do, exactly, and that was why there was no point me baking some, because we couldn't get any clotted cream anywhere. His lordship had eaten it all during the week. Very pleased with himself he was. Yes,
I can imagine. So I'm just going to go back across the top of there, and then come back again to come down this other side.
It does look hand-drawn, doesn't it? Where there's deviations from the
It just gives it a sketchy feel, doesn't it? And that adds to the elements of it. So we're coming across the...
But if you've got all your stitching bang on top of each other, you wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get that effect, would you?
No. And we do the same around the bowl.
A tiny bit of liberty there.
Yes.
Lovely.
I just loved the pattern on it. It was the right size. We're going round now to make the strawberries. And again, it's only to give some sort of idea of strawberries. They don't have to be, perfectly shaped or anything like that.
No, and they're all different anyway, aren't they?
Yeah. Just round there, do a few under the bottom here. Just coming around and then going back into my dish and bringing that around, and then back along the edge of the tablecloth. This is really so that you can do it without having to stop and start. Obviously, if you wanted to use the same colour thread as your applique, then you would have to do each element individually.
we will get this close-up video loaded onto Facebook and probably our Instagram as well.
It's nice to see it, isn't it?
Straight over where I am, right on Jane's shoulder.
Oops. Get off there.
It's alright. It's all part of it, Jane.
And so you can bring that jug handle round there to go round the inside.
Oh, it sounds silly, Jane, but I was looking at that going, how's she going to get there? It's a part of the reason I'm hovering.
Yeah, and then around,
Lovely.
back down, and then along. And that brings just round that corner then, and you can come back down. To the bottom of your tablecloth there, and then you can do your string of bunting, and in the same way you'd start at the top edge, drop your foot down, drop your needle into your fabric, keep hold of the top thread, lift it, and that will lift the bobbin thread out. Drop your needle back in so that it's in where you came out. Might have to reposition your fabric slightly, because the thing with your darning foot is it doesn't grip the fabric. That's the whole reason that you can do the free motion embroidery on it. There's always that element of movement under the fabric with it, so it's always sometimes you have to move your fabric back to get your needle back in. Bring the threads behind and under your foot, drop your foot again, and then you can do the string element of your bunting. Go across the top of your flag, and then you can go down and up again, and again you can go round that twice if you want that sketchy look to it. You can do this with your zigzag stitch, you can do it with your buttonhole stitch, blanket stitch, satin stitch. You know, the elements are there, and you can finish it however you like. The thing with Bonder web is it'll stay attached for a little while, but over time, if it's not stitched down, it will come unstuck to the background fabric, so you do need to stitch it in some form.
Oh, Jane, I've had some praise. Apparently my phone, I was hoping it would work. My phone was able to show everyone the close-up on the main camera.
Oh,
tilted it
fabulous.
so that the camera would hit my screen as well and be able to see the close-up. But we will get those. It's quite a long video, so I'll see if we can get it broken into several little ones and load those up onto social. Ginny Mackie says, such a peaceful, slow sew sound. It really is, it's hypnotic.
It is.
And if you don't get yourself in a tiz and
Yeah.
you just relax and enjoy it, it's a peaceful thing to do as well. It's really
Yeah.
enjoyable.
I think that some people think that you have to be like the free motion quilting when you're doing free motion embroidery, that you have to go fast, and you don't. You can take it nice and slowly, and the stitch length doesn't really matter.
Nope.
It doesn't matter if you get some long ones and some short ones. Again, it adds to that sort of sketchy look.
Yeah. Oh, Claire Angelina said, you're so good at it, Jane.
I've been doing it a lot under Claire, you know. It's what we were saying, practice, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I first did it, it didn't look anything like this, so, you know, don't be disheartened. Don't think, oh, I'll never get it this.
No.
And mine isn't as good as some I've seen, and what I'm doing today is slightly rushed, so it's not probably as neat as I would normally like it to be. I'm going to come up with my swag of embroidery stitch there.
Jane, everyone's got plenty of fabric, haven't they? So if they layer
Yeah,
up
you
their
can just
item
practice.
and then put it to one side, layer up their, their panel, put it to one side, and you've got enough to do a couple, haven't you?
Yeah,
So layer it up, put it to one side, and then get some totally scrap pieces to practice all this on.
just make some
Why
shapes.
not?
Make a circle, make a square, make a triangle, and just go around.
Practice your cookies, practice, your bunting, whatever.
Yeah.
Claire Angeline says if you had Etch-a-Sketch back in the day, you'll know how to draw with just one line.
Yes.
It's so true.
It is true. It's just like doing Etch-a-Sketch. So I've gone over the line at the top of the bunting to give that definition. And that is the machine free motion embroidery part done. Then it's just a case of enhancing it with some embroidery stitches. I did French knots on the top of the cake, and we'll talk about French knots in a moment. Little straight stitches for the tops of the strawberries. Lazy daisy stitch here. Now the cookies, you could do little tiny stitches to represent chocolate chips.
Yeah.
But I actually used the Sewline Stayer pen. Because it's a fabric marker and it's a permanent marker, I just did little dots.
I think the little dots add something.
I think they're just fine enough to give the representation of. There's nothing to stop you using this marker to draw around your Bondaweb, but as I said, Bondaweb over time will come unstuck, particularly if you wash it. So that is how I did the little chocolate chips on mine. It's a brown marker pen as well, the one we've got, which works out just beautifully.
Yeah.
Now,
we don't have a huge number of those. I know some of you have spotted them and they've gone in baskets. I see this. You are eagle-eyed. I bow down to you. Well done.
Lazy daisy stitch, which is the stitch I used to do the little daisies on the tops of the grasses here. I'm going to do it bigger on this piece of fabric so you can see it. It's like doing chain stitch, but individual chain stitches. So you bring your fabric up from the back of your fabric and you make a loop and lay it onto your fabric.
Jane, can we bring you forward ever so slightly?
Yeah.
It wouldn't work on close-up, would it? Because you kind of need to...
I need to have it flat, really.
That's fine.
So you've got a loop like that. So you're going to go back in more or less where you came out to make that loop. Now you decide how big you want your flower petals to be. Depends on the size of loop that you make. You then bring your needle up opposite to where you went in, really. You're making a straight line on the back. And then you just make a little straight stitch that holds that loop at the top, like so. Then you come back in more or less where you came out, at the bottom there. You make another loop, go back in, position your loop where you want it to be. Careful because your threads will twist. You want to keep it sort of the same size, but actually having different size petals makes it more realistic in a way. So you've got your loop there. You might want to move that one a little bit closer. And then make that little straight stitch that holds the top of it. Just like so. Back into the middle. You can make as many petals as you like. I've done 5. You could have 6, you could have 4. Again, it's that sort of naive country feel, rustic feel. It's an interpretation. It's not. We're not making botanical embroideries here. We're just doing a little, like a little sketchbook, really, like you drew daisies when you were a child.
Perfect.
Another loop, back in towards the middle. Just manoeuvre it so that it's in the position that you want it to be. Make your loop the same size if you can. And then the final loop, so back into the middle, final loop that fills in that gap. And your little stitch that holds that down. Whoops, that makes it really tiny. That's because I pulled it right up. And it's very difficult once you've pulled it tight to get it to loosen. So we've got a little petal on that one.
But again, flowers very rarely have all perfectly.
But you can see you get like a little star shape on the back, and then you'll just go into the back to fasten off. Just make a loop and pull your thread through that loop.
Natasha's proven me wrong today. So, for those of you who have been with us a while, you'll know that Jane's usual slot was a Wednesday. She was a Stitchy Witchy Wednesday. And then recently we've had some Magic Mondays.
Yes.
And I said to Natasha on the phone last night, I said, what on earth do we call tomorrow? And she said, Twiddle in the Middle Tuesday. I said, but she won't have a twiddle in the middle. There'll be no twiddling in the middling. However, that there, finishing off, I'm qualifying as a twiddle of sorts.
It is.
In the middle of said flower.
Now, the French knot, and we've used a French knot in the middle of the flower, so the yellow thread in the middle. I've got two strands again, just so that it gives a nice definition. Knot in one end, and then we'll come up into the middle of the flower, and a French knot. Hold the thread that's come out, wrap it around your needle 1, 2, 3 times, keep it tight, pop the needle back into more or less where you came out, next to where you came out. Keep that thread tight in your left hand if you're right-handed, and pull your needle through, and that creates the knot in the centre of your flower, so makes the centre of your flower. So you'll do French knots on top of the blobs of cream, and in the centre of your daisies on your flowers, on the grass element here. So up in the middle of your fabric, keep the thread tight in your hand, not tight but taut. 1, 2, 3 around your needle. Pop your needle back in to more or less where you came out. You can't go back into the same hole because otherwise you'll just pull your thread to the back of your work, and that makes a little knot for the centre of your flower. And again, just make a loop, put your thread through the loop, pull it, and that fastens it off. So those are the elements. We've done them bigger, but you do quite tiny ones on there. And then for the green, it's just for the tops of the strawberries, literally straight stitches.
Oh wow, it is.
Just, and it's two strands of thread, so you can split the thread when you come back up into the middle bit. You can go through the two threads, which sort of sprays them out. Perfect. Which gives them that effect of the tops of the strawberries. And that's, once you've got those embroidered elements on, that's you finished, ready to layer it up and quilt it. And the quilting I've done has been very simple. I've literally quilted around the outside of the table and the items on the table, come around that edge there, and then followed the line under the bunting around.
Oh, nice.
And then came just a line across the top as well.
Yeah.
And that just lifts it, and that's enough quilting really to hold the 3 layers together. I think I've gone across the top here, so I've taken a green thread across the top there and around the bottom element of that part of the table, and then the blue thread that comes up the table and goes around those elements, just following echoing the shapes really.
Lovely.
Just to give it a bit of definition, and again around the bunting. So
but
quite
again,
simple quilting on there, just not to detract.
Yeah, there's options.
Yeah.
If you wanted to put a few little thread
cloud shapes or whatever you wanted to do.
A few little blades of grass type spikes down
Yeah,
at the bottom.
absolutely.
You've got options there.
You could do that with your embroidery thread. You could do some just straight stitches with to add blades of grass across the bottom of your tablecloth.
Have loads of fun with these, and that's kind of the point, isn't it, Jane? Is that this is a...
You can add and detract. If you don't want to do the embroidery, that still looks with just the outlining stitches on there.
It looks really beautiful.
Still looks lovely. So,
really
you can do as you wish.
Amazing. Thank you, Jane. There's lots of praise for this today. We have Anne Atwood who says, "Love it. I finally got you. I'm in India."
In India?
Fabulous time in India. She's
in India?
Visitors,
oh, wow, how exciting.
Oh, okay. It's a very good reason for being late, I'd say.
Yes.
We'll let that one go. That's a really
Can't
good
imagine what the time difference is.
No, quite. Linda says, "Fabulous demo."
Thank you.
Claire Angelina has a query around free motion.
Yes.
She says, "I have a problem with my machine on free motion. It tends to pull up the bobbin thread. Any ideas?" If that doesn't make any sense, Jane, then we'll get Claire to email her query in. It says it tends to pull up the bobbin thread.
So that you can see the bobbin thread in your stitching.
Is that what you mean?
Is that what you mean? Because you need to pull your bobbin thread up
through
to start with anyway, to the top of your work, because otherwise it will all tangle up underneath. And it's a tension thing. So you might have to adjust your tension, not your bobbin tension, your top tension. Just make it a bit looser so it's not so tight. And then, as I say, I've used a different colour thread in my bobbin, but it makes sure your bobbin and your top thread are the same colour.
Yeah.
That tends to help. But sometimes you need a looser tension when you're doing free motion than you would do normally on your machine. So again, it's just a case of trying it on a cloth. Having the stabiliser behind for the embroidery also helps. That sort of gives it a bit more. It's not a single cloth then that you're sewing through.
Yeah.
Because when we're sewing, we tend to sew more than one layer anyway.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's nice to have that stabiliser on the back. It just gives it a bit of stabiliser.
When you start trying to sew just onto one piece of fabric without another one behind
it does tend. I mean, you can see it's pulled it up slightly anyway. But if I hadn't got that, it would really pucker it up.
Nothing that.
But we cut the block slightly bigger than we actually need it to. We're going to, when we come to put it into the pad or into our quilt, we're going to trim it down a bit anyway. But all of that's in the instructions.
And Jane, in the instructions for each month, you do explain how to cut the block down and how to bind it to make your and create the little panel on the back.
Yeah, the little sleeve.
To make your individual.
Put the sleeve
blocks.
on.
But if someone is going to make the quilt, then the best thing for them to do is pop this in their block keeper without trimming it, without
don't trim it, don't do anything to it
as it is, and we will come together with the whole thing towards the end of the year and tell you how to put your quilt together.
Yeah,
it'd be great, won't it? Oh, we're really looking forward to seeing everybody's makes, and if you can load some images up, you can share them on our website. We have our community makes page. If you do pop something on there, it won't show immediately.
No,
it'll go into a holding space before SJ will have a look at it to check that it is appropriate for the website, because you would not believe some of the things some very naughty people would like to try and pop on our website. As much as it'd be entertaining,
you think they'd have better things to do with their time, wouldn't you, really?
So poor SJ will have to go through those images to check that they are appropriate.
Yes.
And then she will approve them. But once she approves them, they can be seen by everybody who's looking at Community Makes on our website. So if you are perhaps a little shy and you want your make just to be seen by us, then do feel free to send an image across on email. You can do that at info@natashamakes.com and just pop in the comments for your eyes only. And yeah, Jane will look at it. I'll look at it.
It's lovely to see what you make. It's really nice.
Yeah, we love it. And if we've designed something and you make it in a different fabric or you slightly change it, we really love that. It's great to see for us. Really nice. It really is. She says, Claire Angelina, that the bobbin thread comes up. It is visible in large enough loops on top of the work. Claire, pop us an email across so that we've got your email address and Jane will have a little chat.
That's definitely a tension thing, I think, Angelina, Claire. That's it's loosen your top tension rather than your bobbin. I don't mess with my bobbin tension. Don't touch it at all. If there's always a problem, it's usually the top tension. So it needs to just be a bit looser. if you're having a problem with your bottom tension, I recommend that you take it back to your supplier or the person that you have it serviced with, because they'll be able to adjust it, because there's usually a screw within the bobbin part, and it's literally like millimetres of a turn, and they'll know
I'm glad
how
you
to
said
adjust
the
it.
magical S word there, because I think a lot of people were perhaps guilty of not even cleaning the machine out, and sometimes it needs a service. You know,
Yes.
it's like your car. If it's not doing what it should do, sometimes it just needs a really good strip down, a clean and a service and a checking over. And you think, oh no, I don't want to part with that money, but actually quite often it'll start stitching properly, and then you think, why didn't I do this before?
It's a bit like changing your needle and changing your blade. You think, oh, I should have done this
really
ages
is.
ago.
It really is. And on that note, we do have very few left of the class 100 needles that we stock here at Natasha Makes. So if you are wanting those, grab them quick. We're hoping to get some more stock in. I ideally need them in next week anyway, because we have got Gary in next week from Dukey. So if that's something you've been looking out for, date in your diary, he's in on the 17th.
Nice.
Which is Wednesday next week.
Lovely.
Tomorrow, however, it'll be Natasha.
Super.
She is here. She's on her way from Cornwall right now. She's got a fabulous make for you. I think some of you have seen a little sneaky peek on social.
Oh yes, it looks gorgeous.
It does. It's quite exciting. She's giving you a sneaky peek of some fabric that'll be around early June as well. But she has got a beautiful make for you tomorrow. And then it'll be Thursday, Half Meet to Heaven Day. Then it'll be Friday Deals Day. And then it'll be the weekend.
Yes.
I do not know where these weeks are.
But it's just a weekend this weekend.
It's just a weekend.
Yeah.
It is, but not just any old weekend, because on Sunday the office child gets married.
Yes.
She does. RSJ is getting married, so we will have her here tomorrow, make a fuss of her, and then she will go off and she'll be all grown up.
Yes.
And she'll still have a bottom lip that comes out in an afternoon when she needs a cup of tea.
Yeah.
You just know it.
Something sweet to keep her going.
Yes. And then next week, Jane, you're with us next week.
Yes.
What have you got in
I've got some really lovely Lewis and Irene fabric.
You have.
Yes.
And your quilt, making a quilt.
Yes.
So you'll see Jane again next week, but you'll hear me tomorrow.
I think, am I on Monday next week?
It's a very good question.
I can't remember. I think I've got Monday, but I don't. Yes, I
right
must
now.
be. If Gary's here on Wednesday,
Yes.
I'll be on Monday.
You'll be on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
You'll be somewhere, Jane, but you won't be Wednesday.
No.
Because Gary's in.
Gary's on Wednesday.
It has been lovely to have you with us. We will speak to you tomorrow. Well, I will. Jane will be busy.
Yes.
She'll be busy.
You'll have Natasha.
You will have to Natasha tomorrow.
Making something fabulous.
Yep. Buy your kits. Get cracking with those half bolts as well, because again, those deals only stay around for a little while. Have a peek through the sample sale as well. Like I say, I'm a little bit amazed that there's one or two things in there that I still want to purchase. So
Some really nice
before
things.
I do.
Yeah.
And we'll have these bolt ends up very soon as well. So thank you for joining us. Take care. Lots of love.
Bye-bye.
Bye.